The teacher seems uncomfortable when you arrive at pickup. The pediatrician directs all medical information to her, even when you are standing right there. The school counsellor watches you a little too carefully at events, and you can't quite put your finger on why. But you have the distinct feeling that everyone who interacts with your children have already decided something about you, something unflattering, something that positions you as the problem parent. You haven't done anything wrong, you haven't been accused of anything specific, but somehow in every professional interaction involving your children, you're starting from behind. You're the parent who gets watched, the parent who gets documented, the parent everyone seems to be working around rather than working with. That's what undermining parental ability feels like. And if you've ever sensed that the professionals in your children's lives have been primed to see you as inadequate before you've even opened your mouth, this episode is going to help you understand exactly what's happening. In today's episode of The Blueprint of Family Violence Against Men, we're going to break down what undermining parental ability means and how it differs from direct attacks on your relationship with your children. Then we'll walk through 6 specific ways this tactic operates, from professional seating through to competence documentation. And finally, we'll talk about how you navigate a world where the people who interact with your children have already been given a story about you. For those of you who are new here, this is Stand Again, a lived experience platform for male victims of family violence. Abuse is not limited to one gender, but this channel focuses on the male perspective because it is so often dismissed or misunderstood. I need your help to make this channel grow. So if this content helps you, please like, hype, subscribe, and add the word Stand Again into the chat. Those 2 words don't just help the algorithm recognize that this topic is important, they might just help a victim of family violence realize they are not alone. Now, before we get into the definition of undermining parental ability, a quick apology. I've picked up a cold. So in today's episode, I might be a little bit more nasally than normal. Let's get into the definition. Undermining parental ability involves the systemic erosion of your credibility, your competence, and your standing as a parent in the eyes of the professionals who interact with your children. This tactic works through accumulated micro-disclosures rather than any dramatic accusations. Her target is teachers and doctors and counselors and coaches. Anyone who observes your children becomes an audience for her micro-disclosures. The goal from her is ambient doubt. She's trying to aim to create a dynamic where professionals might hesitate before contacting you, or get them to look more carefully at you during events and document what would normally be just normal parenting in a narrative that would support your abuser. The mechanism exploits pre-existing assumptions about maternal competence and paternal incompetence. Mothers are assumed as capable. Fathers must prove adequacy. Your abuser doesn't need to manufacture concerns from nothing. She just needs only to amplify the existing cultural skepticism around dads as parents. For example, a teacher might already expect a mum to know more about their children's needs than a dad. Or a doctor might already direct medical information primarily to a mother. Your abuser therefore feeds those assumptions, positioning herself as the reliable parent, even if she's not, while also raising just enough doubt about you to ensure she remains the central point of contact and the one who rules the narrative. Now, the reason why she might use micro-disclosures is that they are deniable in isolation. A micro-disclosure is where she might mention to the teacher that you don't really handle transitions very well. Or she tells the pediatrician she's a little bit worried about your patience. Or she might confide in a school counsellor that things have been stressful for you at home. There's no single comment that rises to an allegation. Instead, it's an aggregate effect that every professional who interacts with your children has been primed to see you as a difficult or even problem parent, the one to watch, the one to document, the one to work around. This tactic is distinct from parental alienation, which targets the children's emotional bond with you directly. Undermining parental ability targets the professional ecosystem around your children. It attacks your standing as a parent in the eyes of teachers and doctors and coaches and counselors. The children may still love you very much. They may still want to spend time with you. But the adults responsible for their care have been primed to view you with suspicion. And that suspicion shapes every interaction you have with the systems that surround your children's lives. Let's now take a look at the 6 forms of undermining parental ability, which change depending on the professional context that your abuser is targeting. The first is professional seeding. Professional seeding involves planting concerns with professionals who interact with your children, like as I was saying before, teachers, coaches, counselors, healthcare providers, before any actual problem exists. The tactic works by creating interpretive frames that shape how professionals perceive your subsequent behavior. So once concerns have been seeded, your behavior is viewed through that lens of concern rather than through a lens of neutrality. The mechanism here exploits the confirmation bias that operates in professional settings. If your abuser mentions that you might struggle with anger, even though it's false, if you display normal parental frustration, then in the minds of that professional, it becomes evidence of a pattern that your abuser is describing. If your abuser has noted that you don't really understand the children's needs, then your differing parenting approach instead becomes confirmation of inadequacy. The professional doesn't investigate her claims. They simply become the framework through which your actions are now interpreted. You can't undo first impressions that you did not know were formed about you. Your abuser might mention to teachers that you're not very involved with homework, or tell coaches that you don't really understand the sport, or might even suggest to counselors that you have trouble connecting to your children emotionally. She might even note to doctors that she does most of the medical care at home. The disclosures are framed as casual comments. I just wanted you to know ... And instead, each creates a documented and accumulated informal disclosure. Each positions you as the parent the professionals must watch. The second form is medical anxiety induction. Medical anxiety induction involves exaggerated or fabricated children's health concerns and then coupling them up with messages that positions her as an essential caregiver. The tactic works by creating documentation of attentive maternal care alongside implicit questions about your paternal awareness. The narrative is that children have needs that require her specifically, and that your parenting creates or exasperates their problems. The mechanism exploits the documentation practices of healthcare and the gendered assumptions embedded within them. Each medical presentation creates a record. Records show who brought the child, who expressed concern, and who followed up. Your abuser ensures the records reflect her engagement and your absence. Medical settings now become stages for her performance of superior parenting, performances that are documented and will be produced in court by your abuser. Your abuser may schedule frequent medical appointments for minor or even just normal childhood experiences. She might document symptoms that just resolve without treatment, or she might suggest children's symptoms are much more worse after time with you. Or even create a medical paper trail that emphasizes her attentiveness. She might exclude you from appointments and then note that you were not involved, even though she's the one who excluded you. Or she might even use diagnoses to justify reducing your parenting time. Here, the medical system becomes evidence of her indispensability and your inadequacy. The third form is educational interference. Educational interference involves manipulating children's school experience to undermine your involvement, your credibility, or even your relationship with the educational staff. The tactic works by controlling information flow and positioning within the school system. Your abuser ensures that she is the primary contact. She positions herself as the reliable parent and you not, the one that teachers should be thinking of first. You become the parent teachers don't know, don't call, and do not include. It's what I'm currently experiencing today. The mechanism exploits schools' default to maternal contact. Schools typically follow historical patterns that position mothers as primary educational contacts. Your abuser reinforces this default, ensuring her number is listed as primary, her email receiving the communications, and her presence at events as expected, while yours is positioned as optional. When you, as a father, attempt to engage directly, you encounter systems already configured around her, and staff who have heard her version of the family situation. Your abuser may ensure she is the primary school contact, attend meetings alone, and report your absence as disinterest, even though she has excluded you. Your abuser might make educational decisions unilaterally, create homework crises during your parenting time, or position teachers to see her as the engaged parent and you as the disengaged one. She might fail to communicate school information to you, then document it as your ignorance. The school here becomes another domain where you are positioned as a peripheral parent, regardless of your actual engagement. The fourth form is emotional competence attacks. Emotional competence attacks target your perceived ability to understand, support, and respond to your children's emotional needs. This tactic works by exploiting gendered assumptions about nurturing. Mothers are presumed emotionally attuned, fathers are presumed emotionally limited. It's a false cultural stereotype. She might feed that assumption with selective examples concerning interpretations and documentation that emphasizes your perceived deficits. The mechanism exploits the difficulty of measuring emotional competence and the ease of narratively constructing its absence. Your abuser provides the frame, something like, you don't really get their feelings. And professionals interpret your behavior through that frame. Your parenting style, which might perhaps be more active or more playful or less verbally emotional, now becomes evidence of emotional limitation rather than difference in parenting style. You can't prove emotional competence. You can only be interpreted as lacking it. Your abuser might tell counselors that you don't understand emotional needs. She might document your children's distress after time with you, or interpret the normal father-child conflict as evidence of your emotional failure. She might go so far as to suggest that the children shut down around you, or position herself as the parent that the children confide in. This creates the impression that you are emotionally unsafe. Your different approach to emotional support is now reframed as deficiency rather than a complementary style. The fifth form is safety concern manufacturing. Safety concern manufacturing involves creating or exaggerating incidences that raise question about your ability to keep your children physically safe. The tactic works, the tactic works by activating professionals' protective obligations. Teachers, doctors, counsellors all have mandatory reporting requirements. Your abuser creates concerns that fall just short of formal reporting but remain documented. A pattern of near concerns that suggests inadequacy in your supervision. The mechanism here exploits the protective orientation of child-serving professionals. Minor childhood injuries, which are normal, but when framed as a pattern and then coupled with expressions of maternal concern and then documented repeatedly, now build a case for your parental inadequacy. Each incident is individually explainable. The pattern that she manufactures from them can be damning. You can't prevent normal childhood experiences. You can only watch them be transformed into evidence against you. Your abuser may elevate normal childhood injuries into documentation of negligence. She might reframe age-appropriate activities as dangerous, or she might even suggest that your supervision is inadequate. She might even manufacture incidences that create concern about your judgment, or she might just position herself as needing to compensate for your safety failures. Here, she's looking to create a paper trail with schools or with doctors about safety concerns. Normal parenting here becomes a liability when filtered through your abuser's reframing. The last form is competence documentation. Competence documentation involves creating and maintaining records that position her as the competent parent and you as a deficient one. This tactic works by building an archive that can be deployed against you when needed. She might create journal records of perceived failures, even though they are false. She might have communications that she's saved that are completely out of context. Or she might capture photographs in situations that appear concerning in just that one still image. The documentation exists not as a neutral record, but as a manufactured weapon, assembled, edited, and ready to deploy against you. The mechanism here exploits the evidentiary weight of documentation. Courts value records. Written accounts appear more reliable than memory. Your abuser creates contemporaneous documentation designed for latter use, recording incidences in terms that support her eventual false narrative. The documentation is prospective, created with future conflict in mind, but appears as though it is credible. Your abuser builds the case against you long before you know that you will be on trial. Protecting yourself when the professional world around your children has been primed against you requires deliberate effort. You're fighting invisible battles, trying to overcome false first impressions that you did not know were even formed. Let's step through 3 things that could help. The first is to establish the direct professional relationship yourself. Don't let her be the only parent professionals know. Introduce yourself to teachers at the start of the year. Ensure you're listed as a contact with the school, the doctor, and the coach. Attend appointments when you can. Show up at events. Send your own emails rather than relying on information filtered through your abuser. The goal is to create your own relationship with these professionals so that they have direct experience of you rather than only her characterization of you. Professionals who have met you, spoken with you, and seen you parent are less susceptible to narrative framing than professionals who know you only through her description. Your presence is a counter to her story. Being visible, being engaged, and consistency speaks louder than anything she can say about you. The second is to document your engagement, not just her attacks. Keep records of your involvement in your children's lives. Your emails to teachers, your attendance at appointments, your participation in activities, your own journal of parenting time. Not focused on her behaviour, but on your engagement with your children. If the narrative she's building is that you are uninvolved or incompetent, then your documentation provides that counter evidence. This documentation is not about building a case against her. It's about building a record of who you actually are as a parent. If professionals have been primed to see absence and inadequacy, then your records demonstrate presence and competence. Facts here help counter the narrative. The third is to request transparency in professional communications. Ask to be copied on all communications from schools, medical providers, and other professionals. Request that both parents receive information simultaneously. If you discover that you've been excluded from communications, address it directly with the institution. Many professionals do not realize they're being positioned as gatekeepers. When you request direct access to information, you disrupt that information asymmetry that your abuser has created. You're not being difficult here. You're just being a parent who wants to be informed about their children. Frame your request in those terms if you have to, but professionals who understand you want to be involved are less likely to unconsciously exclude you. Undermining parental ability is insidious because it operates beneath the surface of normal professional interactions. You walk into a parent-teacher conference and you can feel something is off, but you can't point to anything specific. The professionals are not hostile, they're just guarded, watchful, careful, like they have been told something about you that shapes how they see everything you do. Here, the damage accumulates through those micro interactions. Comment here, a documented concern there, an excluded communication, or a meeting you were not told about. Each is small, but the aggregate effect is that the professional ecosystem around your children has been configured to work around you rather than with you. You've become the problem parent by her stealth, even though you have done nothing wrong. Fighting that requires visibility and persistence and consistency in good parenting. You have to establish direct relationships with the professionals in your lives. You have to document your own engagement with your children. You have to request inclusion in communications that should already include you. It's exhausting work, counting a narrative you didn't know was being built. But it matters because your children deserve to have their father seen accurately by the adults who shape their world. This is Stand Again, lived experience platform for male survivors of family violence. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Your voice might just help another man find his. If you're looking for one-on-one support, you can book coaching with a member of the Stand Again team. Simply visit standagain.com.au, where you will also find grounded information on surviving and recovering from family violence as a man. As always, remember that no matter how many times you've been knocked down, you can stand again.